All right, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone. This Q&A question came in. A few questions came in here. We'll see how far we get. Somebody asked like this. Interesting question. Somebody tempers with someone's medications to the extent it might be considered a life risk. What's the punishment? In other words, attempted murder, essentially, right? Or close to attempted murder, right? It's a life risk over here, right? Let's say. And second part, follow-up question is, what if they intended to kill, but the person managed to escape? Good questions here. So we know that a lot of times the thought of doing something and not succeeding can very well be worse than the actual thing itself. In other words, Gemara says, Hirur Avera, the thoughts of doing a sin, is actually worse than the sin itself. Now, you might ask, what's the difference? Because someone does the sin, okay, maybe you tell me there's a buildup with the evil inclination and what the evil inclination does. But see, our thoughts get out of control. And if our thoughts get out of control, even if we don't do the action, so it takes a lot more to fix it. Because when we're enslaved to our evil inclination, even if we don't act on it per se, or we think about it, or we think about doing things, it's worse. Right? Seemingly it's a lot worse, as the Talmud says. Now it comes on the Rambam. We'll quote the Rambam here. The Rambam says, what would happen? What would happen if someone committed murder? Here we're talking about they did what they set out to do. They committed murder, but they did it in a way with no death penalty. Let's say they ordered a hit on someone. So if the king did not kill the person, courts didn't feel it was necessary, let's say to execute the criminal, maybe to strengthen the matter. What does the court do? Court can beat up such criminals to an inch of their lives, can lock them up in harsh surroundings, inflict all sorts of pain on them, frighten them, so other people won't do such a thing. Because people will say, well, I can get away with it, just like this person did. So it's a deterrent. But see, if they're guilty, they did it, they're liable for death penalty. You can't give death penalty today, right? We don't have a temple in Jerusalem, and even if we did, most likely, right, the Mishnah says, the end of the first chapter and tractate Makos, that if a court, the Sanhedrin killed once in 7 years, or once in 70 years, it was considered like a bloody court. So, there has to be a deterrent over here. Certainly has to be a deterrent, right? If try and stop people from doing this. But what about someone didn't do it? They didn't finish off the job. Attempted murder. Now, attempted murder is something a Jewish court can't do anything about. Even if he claims before witnesses, he's going to kill indirectly. What could a Jewish court do? Nothing. Jewish court can't do anything. 100% they can't do anything. Right, just like today, we can't judge it. There are technicalities over here. But even if someone would go in front of two witnesses and say, I'm going to do X, right, I'm going to go out and suffocate someone. I'm going to go out and throw someone off a cliff. So what's the obvious question? Even if they did it in front of two witnesses, because the Torah tells me I need two witnesses to get somebody in order to prosecute, right? I need two witnesses. If I have only one witness, then we make the other person swear, but we're not going to make them swear today because we're afraid they're going to lie. So the rabbinical court will make a compromise in such a situation because technically you can't do anything over here because you only have one witness, right? But here, let's say the guy's jumping up and down saying, this is what I'm going to do. And let's say he's got a track record, even better. The guy's got a track record. What can Beis Din do? Nothing. Why can't they do anything? But they haven't done anything. He's not liable. You can't be liable if you didn't do anything. Now, technically, if he didn't do anything, what's going to happen? He'll be punished for his thoughts. We just mentioned. Here or Avera, the thoughts of a person, right, to do a transgression is worse than the thing itself. You tell me he didn't do it. Okay. But he thought about doing it. Right? So here, we can't do anything. 100% can't do anything. You didn't do anything over here. Now, could you guard the person? Could you warn the person? Is that Lashon Hara? No. You can warn him. But I would say like this. People talk way too much, let's say. So just because the person says, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, doesn't mean they're going to do it. Who says they're going to do it? See, you tell me, but the person got a track record. Okay. So we can guard against it. But who says he's going to do it? You can't just say, okay, we're going to put him in jail. We're going to lock him up and we're going to torture him and do these other things because of what he said he's going to do. But he didn't do it. Right? Reminds me of the story that after 9/11, somebody calls up my Rabbi and says, I want to make a Suda Soda. I want to make a meal, a festive meal for being saved. So Rabbi says, what do you mean? He says, I was supposed to be in the World Trade Center, when it went down, and I wasn't there. And he also want to make the blessing of being saved from a miraculous situation. Came out of a miraculous situation. So Rabbi asked him, he said, were you there? He said, no. He said he was supposed to be there. This happened, that happened. So my Rabbi asked him again, were you there? No. You can't make the blessing. You don't make a festive meal for being saved. You weren't there. It's not like you were in a bad car accident, the car got mangled, and you came out without a scratch. Or you came out, injured, but you recovered. Or something like that. That I hear. Because that a person came out of it. 100% came out of it. But you're going to say, but I could have been in the car. I could have been there. So what would we ask them? Were you there? No. But this happened, that happened. Doesn't matter. You weren't there. All the plans of the world don't matter. You didn't do it. Only difference over here is the person had in their mind to transgress. They wanted to transgress, but they got stopped. It didn't happen for whatever reason. Now, what they said they were going to do, that they can get punished for. Even though they didn't do it. Because the thoughts are bad. Even though we say, Devarim shebalev eino devarim, words in my mind, words in my heart don't mean anything. But here he says he's going to go out and do it in front of witnesses. So what would I say? I wouldn't say these are just words. These are just thoughts. He actually said it. So you can say, great. Let's lock him up. Let's, torture him, this, that. Make a huge deterrent over here. Did he do it? He didn't do it. Can someone, they say they're going to kill X person. Can they warn the person? They can warn the person. That's on Lashon Hara. They're allowed to do that. But he's not guilty. He's only guilty for what he said, for what he thought. But he didn't do it. He didn't do it over here. So if he didn't do it, so we get technicality here. Right, just like today, murder laws, we can't, if someone murders someone, you can't judge them in a rabbinical court. Based on a technicality. Right? The technicality is, no rabbi today has that status of from, rabbinic ordination from the time of the temple, right? When the temple existed in Jerusalem. So they don't have that kind of knowledge. They don't have that kind of ordination. So in any case, we don't have a temple anyway. So you have two things. You don't have that level of knowledge. We don't have a temple in Jerusalem. So in either case can't be done. Only because of technicality over here. But let's say, we use the other case. Let's say somebody did something wrong. They did something wrong and the rabbinical court, based on a technicality, they can't force them over here to pay. Let's say he owes money, the person doesn't have enough witnesses, whatever the case is, they can't force it. But he's guilty. But they can't get him in this one. So in the heavenly court, he's guilty. Right? There could be things today that a person may not be charged with only because of a technicality. But doesn't mean, so there's a heavenly court. In the heavenly court, God's not going to miss it. God's going to take care of business. That we have no doubts. The only question is, what about this course? Sorry, what about this world? What would I say about this world? Can't get him. Did something wrong. Or he had intention to do something wrong. Right? Did he do it? He didn't do it. If he didn't do it, he's not guilty. He's only guilty for what he thought. Right? Which can be worse, the Talmud says it's worse than the act itself. But he's guilty for what he thought. But you can't get him for what he did because he didn't do anything. Right? So the question, so let's go back to the original question. Someone tampers with someone's medication. That's considered a life risk. That is a problem that obviously you're not allowed to do. Right? A life risk means it could kill them. Sounds like attempted murder. Right? So the intent is crucial over here. If the intent is they want to cause damage, but they didn't cause damage. Let's say they didn't cause damage. Or the second part of the question is, what if they intended to kill, but the person had managed to escape? So they didn't do what they set out to do. So what they set out to do, they're going to get punished. But not for the action itself. They didn't do it. So what's the exact punishment? So the Rambam here learns that, such a person, you could, you could lock them up, you could, severely punish them, so other people won't do the same thing. Right, as the Rambam says. But again, can't kill them. Punishment is going to be totally different. Right? Because, what can the court do over here? They didn't do what they set out to do. Right? So it could be in this world, in this world, what's going to be? They might be exempt. But let's say someone tried to murder someone. They shot, they missed. Right? The victim, so normally we say they got to pay for a number of things. They're going to have to pay for damages if there's any damage, medical bills, right? Embarrassment, if there's any embarrassment. Well, what do I see over here? A person's in a traumatic situation. They what happens? Attempted murder, they escaped. So what's the person liable for? Could be liable, let's say, medical bills. Could definitely be liable for medical bills. 100% also, let's say, can't go to work. Might have to pay for that. Might have to pay what he was supposed to get paid. Might have to pay for counseling. Person been through trauma. So a lot of things he might have to pay for. Right? If he'll get guilty on that. But for the attempt itself, that they didn't do what they set out to do. So again, they'll have to pay these different things. Damages, they cause damage. Medical bills, they're out of work. Right? Embarrassments, etc. So that would be the punishment, depending on what the person did. Let's say person needs psychological help. So they have to pay for that also, since they caused it. So, second part of the question is, if they intended to kill, but the person managed to escape. So their intention, they're also guilty. 100%. They're also guilty. But they're going to have to pay these other things, whatever they may be. Damages. What do you call it? To get healed. If they were, they'd be put in the hospital or whatever. I don't think embarrassment. I don't know if there's any embarrassment that I have to pay over here. Damages for sure. Medical bills for sure. Person's out of work, they'd have to pay that, compensate. Counseling, 100%. But you see, attempted murder, you don't kill the person. It's not murder. You didn't do it. So we didn't do it. They tried. Okay, so they'll have to pay these other things. But even if they would come in front of two witnesses, and Reuven says, I'm going right now, gonna get to my house, gonna get some, gonna get a gun, get some ammunition, I'm going over to Reuven's to kill him. Now, you can try and stop him. You can certainly warn Shimon, right, that, Reuven wants to come over and kill him. You can warn him, right? Obviously it's going to depend what it is. But you have to see if the person has a track record. I mean, there's a lot of pieces of information we need over here. But if in general, a person says they're going to do X, Y, and Z, who says they're going to do it? There's no guarantee they're going to do it. If they have a track record and this and that, okay. Then, it's a different issue. That's a different issue. It could also be someone said in front of two witnesses, I'm now going to my house and, I'm going to get ammunition and I'm going to go kill Shimon. And they all turn him into the police. Now, turning someone over to the police, in general, if it's not warranted, you lose your portion of the world to come. It's a pretty severe prohibition. So what are the boundaries here? Right, I just saw earlier, there was a case about going to non-Jewish court. That's one of the topics discussing up north. I go up north twice a week. Oh, I haven't got to it yet, but whatever. Getting there next couple of weeks. That Reuven says Shimon owes him money. So what do you have to do? Reuven has to invite Shimon to come to Beis Din, if they're both Jewish. He has to go to Beis Din. He has to go to rabbinical court. So he sends an invitation from the rabbinical court. Shimon doesn't show up. Sends him a second invitation. Shimon doesn't show up. Before the third invitation, the rabbinical court's going to call up Shimon and say, listen, why haven't you come? We're going to send one more thing. If you don't come, then we're going to hear the case, and we're going to allow him to go to Goyish court, to go to secular court. Now, Now, with that being the case, if he doesn't show up, so the person will come in front of the rabbinical court, will tell over the case, and the rabbinical court thinks they have merit. This person has merit, they'll send him to the secular court. But it's a huge prohibition to go to a secular court without permission of the rabbinical court. Now, what happens? Let's say Reuven says Shimon owes him $100, $1,000. Shimon doesn't keep Shabbos. Shimon doesn't keep mitzvahs. Now, Reuven knows Shimon in 150 million years is never coming to Beis Din. He's never going to come to rabbinical court. Is he allowed to go to secular courts if he knows this? So the consensus is that even if you know Shimon's not going to come, what do you have to do? You have to summon him once. You don't have to summon him 3 times. You summon him once. If Shimon doesn't show up, they can give him permission to go to the secular court. But a person can't take the law in his own hands and say, wow, I know Shimon's not going to come, so I can go to secular court. Can't do that. You have to have permissibility from the rabbinical court. Right? In order to do that. Now, why do I mention that? Because I saw a response earlier with the following. Someone comes to Beis Din, and they say that, Reuven, is a maniacal driver. And they got evidence. He drives like a maniac. And he scares the life out of people and different things. Are they allowed, would they be allowed in such a case to take him to secular court? Right? To go to the police. So if someone is causing life endangerment, yes. You don't even have to ask the question. If it's life endangerment, 100%. You don't even need to get permission once from the, go take this person to rabbinical court once. The person's causing damage. We see the person's causing damage. When you're not allowed to go to secular courts, you're not allowed to go to secular court if it's not warranted. When it's forbidden. If it's something, again, person is causing damage, we know he's causing damage, and we have witnesses and this and that. I don't have to wait to go to secular court. Right? You don't have to wait to go to secular court because the person causes damage. But I want to point out, going to secular court, 2 Jews, and generally they both agree, is an unbelievably severe prohibition. Because that's called the perversion of justice. I'll take it one step further. Right? It comes out, there's a question. What happens if both agree to go to secular court? And the court itself decides to judge according to Jewish law. How are they going to do that? I don't know. But they agree to go according to Jewish law. Still forbidden. Comes out according to the code of Jewish law. It's still not allowed. Why not? It's a perversion of justice. Perversion of justice. Now, while I'm on this topic, another interesting point. Now, if a person, let's say, goes to secular court when they're not allowed, what's the prohibition? Is it a one-shot deal until it ends in secular court, or is it a prohibition every single second? It's a prohibition every single second until they get out of secular court. So then there's the question. Okay, let's say this person wants to do tshuva, he wants to repent, and he wants to go back. He says, okay, I'm going to stop the proceedings in secular court. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to Beis Din. I'm going to go to the rabbinical court. Is he allowed? Does the rabbinical court have an obligation to take him back? Two opinions. One opinion says the fact that the person wants to repent, you take him back. You let him repent. You judge the case. Another opinion, can also depend why. In other words, let's say there's a case where this person feels they're going to lose in secular court or get a better judgment, from the Beis Din. So he wants to stop secular court in order to go to Beis Din. Why? Because they don't want to lose it in secular court. So the Beis Din can say, you know what? You're coming to us now. You want to repent? Rabbi would say, go eat kogo, too bad. You get punished over here. You don't want to come to us. Now you're coming to us because you're in dire straits. We don't have to listen to you. We don't have to listen to your case. Right? The other opinion says if he's coming back and he wants to repent and he feels bad by going to secular court, you listen to his case. You listen to his case. There are two opinions. Right? And as far as I know, and I'm still working this through, but it seems like we go according to second opinion. Just take him back. We don't find him over here. Right? You take him back. You allow him to repent. But the point is, any time where it's forbidden for a Jew to be in secular court, every single second of every day until it gets out of secular court, the person transgresses. That's not like all prohibitions. Many other prohibitions, you did it, that's it. It's not forever. Give an example. A Jew got a tattoo. The Torah prohibition is, what does it say in the tattoo? It's a Avodah Zarah. They put a Avodah Zarah, idolatry, on their tattoo. That's the Torah prohibition. Any other tattoo, I don't know, Tweety Bird, a dragon, whatever, Elmer Fudd. You don't have Elmer Fudd as a tattoo. Whatever, you have that as a tattoo with the rabbinic prohibition. Now, how far does it go that it's a rabbinic prohibition? Is it a person transgresses every second until you take it off? Or is it a one-shot deal? It's a one-shot deal. You don't transgress every second. Once it's done, it's done. Right? But there are certain things that linger and linger and linger and linger, and you always transgress until you get rid of it. One of them is going to secular court. That is pretty severe. Because basically you have the status of a rasha, of an evil person. And it's like you're throwing up your hand against God and say, I don't care about God. I'm going to go according to these other laws. Torah law doesn't matter to me. So it's like you're sticking it to God in a certain way. So the punishment's severe, right? So according to that, the Beis Din can say, you know what? You wanted to go to secular court, too bad. Well, what happened over here? We should take you back. You spit in God's face. You think their law is better than ours? That's what the Gemara says. Like you're sticking your hand up to God. That's what you're doing. It's like you're lifting your hand up to God over here. That you're not allowed to do. That's pretty severe. That's pretty darn severe over here. But the other side will say, you're right. It's very severe. They have to be chastised, no question about it. But here they're repenting. Here they're repenting. Because they're repenting, they should be accepted. You should take them back. So there are other cases also. That someone goes to secular court where person endangers lives. Person endangers lives. You're allowed to turn the person in. Right? But again, it can't be hearsay. You have to know. There are things you have to know as a fact. You can't just say, wow, I heard this, I heard that. Investigate it. Something that has, it should be known. You should have clear-cut evidence because it is a severe prohibition. But I don't, a person in general, if we know this person is doing crazy things, and it's causing damage, I don't even have to go to Beis Din. I don't have to go to Beis Din at all to ask them, can I go to can I turn them in? Right? Question is, where you draw the line. But, I would say a person shouldn't jump to turn someone in. You lose your portion of the world to come. Jews going to lose their portion of the world to come. If it's something, again, you're going to say, wow, I have to ask my rabbi before I turn him in. Look what this person could do. You're right. If the person's a menace, he's a menace, no shiloh. There's no question. You can turn him in. Now, It could be certain things. Could be certain things. I might have to ask a question first before you do it. But if something is obvious and it's egregious, I don't have to worry here. Because we know the person's causing damage. Right? The case in point was the response I saw earlier. If someone, just drives like a maniac, and people know he drives like a maniac, he endangers people's lives, that's not a problem of turning them in. But the point is turning someone in general, if it's wrong, and in a case where they're not allowed to do it, it's a Torah prohibition, you lose your portion of the world to come. Now, that doesn't just mean, we're just on this topic, that doesn't just mean the person's a menace over here. Let's say you turn someone into the authorities for other things. Let's say somebody built out on their house, built out in their apartment, even better. Right? So in the apartment building, they want to build out, and they don't get permission. They don't get permission from the municipality to build. Now it can take a lot of time, a lot of money, certainly here, right? To get permissibility to do it. But if you do it, you can, you do it illegally. A lot of people do. They won't get permission. That's a whole different question whether they should or not, whatever. But let's say, they should get permission. They should get permission from the municipality. Now, let's say they don't. Let's say they build anyway. They get permissibility from their neighbors, whatever. Let's say they build anyway. They didn't do it according to the law. They didn't do it according to the municipality. Now, what happens if someone calls it in? Someone snitches. Someone calls it in. And they say, Reuben over here is building. He doesn't have permission. Doesn't have permission from the municipality. And he gets snitched on. Now, if he gets snitched on, the person who snitched loses a portion of the world to come. You're going to say, but he did it illegally. Okay. So there's no question if the law of the land applies to Israel or not. We're not going to go down there, but there's a question whether that would be true. And even if it wouldn't apply, if the person snitches, big problem. Big problem. So I asked somebody once, why would a person do such a thing and lose their portion of the world to come? So some person told me it's very simple. It's either they themselves don't have money to build or they can't build. And they think, why should you be able to build and I can't? Jealousy. Right? It's having a small eye. Tsaras ayin, as it's called. Jealousy. So I said, come on. Even if that's true, to that extent, a religious person willing to lose their portion of the world to come, you're snitching. You're not allowed to snitch. That's forbidden. Now, you tell me the person didn't get permission from the municipality. Okay? A lot of people don't do it. But it's not like they're building, and they're going to ruin the structure of the building. They're doing it right and this and that. But, it costs a lot of money, to get permissibility and a lot of paperwork and take a lot of time and all these things. Right? Again, I'm not advocating this. We're not saying this is what a person should do. But if they did it, you don't have to snitch on them. You don't have to turn them in for that. That you lose your portion of the world to come. Is this person causing damage to anyone? Let's make it easy. It's not causing damage. Not causing damage. Everyone agreed to allow him to build. Right? He got everything signed. The plans, everybody signed. And then someone, I guess, had regret. Or maybe someone refused to sign. Whatever the case is, that person snitches. That's the status of a Moser. That's someone that they go to the authorities illegally. They're not allowed to in such a case. Doesn't matter if it's against, if the law says you have to get permission from the municipality. You're a snitch. You're a snitch over here. That you're not allowed to do. That you use your portion of the world to come. That's mind-boggling. So what does it stem from? Jealousy. That's what it stems from. Someone explained to me, either I can't build And if I can't build because I don't have money or I can't build, why should I allow you to build? That's stupid. I mean, that's how far jealousy can go. But it's worth it to lose your portion of the world to come for such a thing. It's been done. I can tell you it's been done. Even in religious areas. So you say, well, it's hard to imagine. How can this person be religious? Jealousy can kill a person. We see by Korah. Killed him. As the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says. Killed him. And there, every 30 days, the Gemara says, he gets up from Gehenna a little bit, from hell. And if you put your ear to the ground in a certain place, you'll hear Moshe Emes, Taraso Emes, Banu Bodoy. That Korach every 30 days, when he comes up for a little bit of air, he says Moshe and his Torah are true, and we're liars. We're false. Imagine, came out of Egypt, survived, saw God face to face on Mount Sinai, held the ark, and he didn't die. But I want to be the high priest. I want to be the high priest. That's what happened. Jealousy killed him. It's hard to imagine, right? So in such a case, could a person be willing to forfeit their portion of the world to come because they're jealous of someone else building they can't build? Yeah, they could do it. Because jealousy kills them. Then if if I can't do it, why should I allow you to do it? Okay, there's such a mentality. Very hard to understand in a certain way. But yeah, jealousy can destroy a person. So, can someone, as we mentioned, go to secular court to try and save a life? Sure. But again, you can't just go on a whim. You have to know. You can't just turn someone in for nothing. If you got good enough evidence, so you're allowed to do it. You're definitely allowed to do it. And if you're wrong, and you did it when you shouldn't have, use your portion of the world to come, unless you repent. So this is a pretty serious thing. Right? Definitely a pretty serious thing. Go into secular court when you're not allowed to. Even if you think you're going to get better judgment in secular court, you're not allowed to. That's like sticking it to God and say, I don't care about your law. I don't care about your Torah. I'm going to do what I want. But their judgment in secular court is called the perversion of justice. It's not going according to Torah. Now, if the other person won't go, the other Jew won't go over here, so you have to summon him 3 times. If he won't come 3 times, then they hear the case. And if you have a legitimate case, they'll let you go. If it's someone for sure is not going to go. A secular Jew doesn't keep anything. You have to at least bring him once. You have to send him an invitation once to come. Now, a non-Jew doesn't apply. Does a non-Jew have to go to rabbinical court? No. Definitely doesn't have to go to rabbinical court. If he wants to, he can. Right? If he's got disagreement with the Jew, he certainly can. That's no question. Doesn't have to. In that case, you go to secular court straight away. Right? Jew doesn't have to take him to Beis Din. It's only by 2 Jews. Right? So that's how that seemingly comes up. Somebody asks, are gold teeth allowed instead of fake ones? Yeah, why not? Not a problem. You could get gold teeth if you wanted to. I don't see what the issue would be. If you had to get false teeth or whatever, or you had to get an implant, could you get a gold? I don't see why not. Shouldn't be a problem. Can a convert become a rabbi? Yep. That's not a problem. Can a convert be a judge, a rabbinic court judge? So that I spoke about. On Tuesday. That's a different issue. Any it depends what type of rabbi. Let's make clear. A rabbi of a synagogue would be more of a problem, right? Rabbi would say be much more of a problem, based really on the technicality, because really they can't have positions of power. But here there's another issue by rabbi of a synagogue, and the rabbi of a synagogue, a lot of times, who becomes the rabbi after them? If they have a son, who'll go to them. Right? So there'd be a status of, of inheritance. Non-Jews converts don't inherit their parents. Non-Jews inherit their parents. They inherit their non-Jewish parents. A convert doesn't inherit, they're non-Jewish parents. Even if they convert, they probably don't inherit that way either. Again, it's really based on technicality over here because they're really not considered family anymore, at least in spiritual terms. To be a rabbinic court judge is the problem. If, let's say, the litigants are Jewish and they accept this convert to be on the rabbinical court, fine. Or if they're fitting to be on the rabbinical court anyway, should also be fine. They can judge other converts, not a problem. Right? But there are other things they can't do. Right? They can't have positions of power. The question is, what's considered a position of power? Being a rabbinic court judge is a position of power. Being the head of a yeshiva, according to most rabbinical authorities, not necessarily a position of power. Even though the head of the yeshiva could say who they accept, who they don't accept, it's not the same thing. Not the same level of power. Someone who gives classes in a yeshiva can also, that's not a problem. It's not power. Not considered power. Why can't they have positions of power? Because we learn out by the laws of a king. Someone who's a king is going to be a king of the Jewish people. The verse over there says it has to be from Echad, from his people, from your people. Now, convert's not your people. He converted, true, but technically he's not from your people. So therefore, the rabbis learn out that, what are we talking about over here? Position of power. Talking about a king. So a convert cannot have positions of power. Now, it depends what. We just mentioned a whole bunch of, a number of things. They have to go back to, I just spoke about that on Tuesday in the last Q&A. Is it okay for Noai to follow along in the week parsha? Yeah. Also not a problem. Learning Torah for them is fine. Learning in depth like a Jew, different issue. But certainly following the Torah portion of the week, they're allowed to. That wouldn't be an issue. Someone asks, is it injustice to punish someone eternally? Why would it be injustice? Right? Just for violating Shabbos. Well, what does the Torah tell me? Torah tells me a Jew desecrates Shabbos on purpose, would get killed in this world by a Sanhedrin, and lose their portion of the world to come, and they get spiritually cut off. Why is that unjust? Take that, for instance. Take eating any leavened product on Passover if you don't repent. You get spiritually cut off. Now, obviously, God thinks that's pretty darn severe. So if there's something that's really severe in God's eyes, why does he have to have mercy? God doesn't have to have mercy. Shabbos, let's understand what Shabbos is. Shabbos means you don't believe in God. That's what it means. See, Friday night we stand up and we say Genesis chapter 2, that God stopped creating, right? Created Shabbos. We give testimony. We stand up. That's how you give testimony, right? So you don't do that, or even if you do that, even if you do make Kiddush, but you don't keep other parts of Shabbos, you desecrate Shabbos in public, right? So you deny God created the world. Now, if I were playing God, put on my George Burns funny glasses and my funny mustache, if I were playing God, I would take serious offense to that. Because you're denying I run the world. You're denying I'm the one in charge. Why should I have mercy on that? That's one of the most severe prohibitions you can do. Right? So now, according to that, you're going to say, isn't it injustice? Why? Ask God that. Don't ask me that. The Torah says you're going to get spiritually cut off. for a number of transgressions, Shabbos being one of them. So if that's the case, don't you think God thinks it's really severe? He thinks it's really severe. So if he thinks there are many other things, it's only limited how much a person is going to get punished. That I agree, 100%. But it's other things that are more severe in God's eyes, he can punish as much as he wants. And this, you deny God, you deny created the world. I think that's pretty bad. Definitely think that's pretty bad. Someone asked, the recurring sequential dreams significant? Not necessarily. Depends what it is. Most dreams today don't mean anything. They mean almost nothing. If it's something, let's say, a king had a dream a number of times. King, God be communicating with him for different reasons, right? Or it could be, let's say, someone comes to them in a dream, a number of times, and says, listen, I owe money to a certain person and I'm getting severely punished, take the money, whatever, and pay this person for me. That's significant. Dreams can be significant. I'm not going to say not. But I would say most dreams are probably not, even if they are sequential. Someone asked, some rabbis say hell's only maximum 12 months. Okay. You're right. And to someone, if there are people that deserve to be there longer and God's just going to keep punishing them over and over and over again, it's his choice. Take someone like Titus. Titus blasphemed against God. And when he died, before he died, he said, burn my body, spread my ashes. The Gemara says, spread my ashes all over the seven seas so God can't judge me. So what does God do? What does God do? The Gemara says he puts his ashes back together, gathers all his ashes, puts them back together as a person, and he burns them every single day for eternity. Now you're going to say, why does God do that? Because this person was a scumbag, was absolute scum. So God said, you know what? I'm going to finish you. And I'm going to punish you forever. Some people deserve that. You're right. Most people are not going to have to suffer more than 12 months. That's why I only say Kaddish for 11 months. Really should only be for 11 months. Some say 12 months. You're right. Most people are not that evil, so it'll only be that amount of time. Right? Depending on what they've done. Could other people suffer a heck of a lot longer? Yeah. It's God's choice. It's God's choice. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean the person's a monster. He goes there forever. It doesn't have to be a monster. It doesn't have to be some killer or pedophile or who knows what. It could be someone who desecrates his name in public when he shouldn't. Certain level of punishment, not enough for this person in God's eyes because of withholding and other factors. Shouldn't God have mercy? Again, God could have mercy, but he chooses not to in certain cases. And if he wants to punish someone for a long time, it's his right. He doesn't have to invoke mercy here. Depends what the person did, right? So I'm not privy to that information. But, again, if someone desecrated Shabbos on purpose, they get spiritually cut off. 100% they get spiritually cut off. That's what the Torah tells me. Because that's an absolute severe prohibition. Why should God have mercy on that? You deny God. You deny he runs the world. He created the world. God should have mercy on that? But he didn't know. Doesn't matter. There are a lot of things that even if a person doesn't know, they're going to get slaughtered for. God will have mercy in other ways. But certain things, God's not going to have mercy. Why should he have mercy? If it's something egregious. Many things, a person's not going to fry in hell forever. Many things. There are some things that potentially could. It's not the majority of things, not even close. Right? Maybe you have a handful of things that might be the case. And someone who's really, really evil, maybe. Not everyone, most people are not that bad. They just do what they do. God's going to take care of them, no question about it. In 11 months will be plenty for them, if not more. But I'll tell you one thing. One of my rabbis once told me, someone very much steeped in Kabbalah, said that it could be Even a person didn't know anything in this world. They desecrate Shabbos, they ate non-kosher, did all these terrible things. Even though they didn't know. He said it could take them 40 years, maybe 40 years to even get to Gehenna. To even get to hell could take 40 years. Doesn't mean they're going to be in hell forever, but that's already an atonement process. So most people are not that bad. They're not going to get that. You're worried about certain individuals that God's going to zap? Okay, you can worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. They have it coming. For whatever reason. God's going to judge them. But it's certainly not the majority. It's not even close. Right? For most people, it'll be 11 months, 12 months. That's for sure. Other people, other people, unless they're really, really, really bad, God can say, I'm tired of this. You did this to me. Okay. You gave me the proverbial finger and told me to, go to hell and this and that. Okay, we'll see. I got a lot of patience. I'll take care of you. I got no problem. And I'll severely punish them. Now, again, where, what, when, how, we don't know. This is only for a handful of people. This is not for the majority. It's only for a handful of people. But if God is going to do that, guess what? They have it coming. And he doesn't have to. Why does he have to have mercy? He doesn't have to have mercy. According to God, in your language, he's a monster, right? So he's going to take this monster and shred him and make him pay forever. Is that going to be a heck of a lot of people? No, certainly not in this generation. God's going to save that for special people, real special people. God's going to save that for. Everyone else, 11 months, 12 months, depending on what they've done. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, how many rabbinical courts in the U.S. judge everything? They can't judge everything. No rabbinical court can judge everything. Not in America, not in Israel. Right? Death penalty things, they can't judge. Fines, kanas, what we call, they can't judge. If there's, a certain law that they'd have to pay some sort of fine, they can't judge that either. It's based on a technicality. So they can judge, divorce cases, money cases, whatever, conversion, kashrus, other things, but, things that are capital punishment, they can't judge. No court can judge. No rabbinic court can judge. Right? We don't have a Sanhedrin. Right? You don't have a Sanhedrin, you can't judge it. Anywhere. Right? Even, don't make the mistake, even in Israel, can't judge it. Even here, they can only judge the same things here as there. Right? There's no Sanhedrin. Can't judge fines here either. Again, based on a technicality. So here or outside of Israel, they can only judge what they can judge. Money matters, marriage, divorce, some other things, but, things that are liable, capital punishment, death penalty, can't judge it. Fines can't judge, right? They can't judge everything. When are we subject to secular court as Jews? Let's say you had to go to secular court for a traffic violation. Can't go to Beis Din for that. Can't take him to Beis Din for that. Then you have to go to secular court. If as Jews, if somebody you were in litigation, let's say with a non-Jew, you have to go to secular court. You have no choice. The only question is we're talking about between two Jews. Between two Jews, you don't go to secular court unless the conditions I mentioned before. Someone asked, can a convert inherit their Jewish past? I don't know what that means. They don't have a Jewish past, per se. I mean, the only thing we can say is that their souls on Mount Sinai. That's why they want to be Jewish in the first place, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. So their souls on Mount Sinai, as we understand, but through intermarriage and assimilation, they now have to go through conversion. Right? But that Jewish past, they don't inherit. And even if they would, let's say a Jew, what past does he inherit? We have no idea. We're born against their will, we die against their will. We're all reincarnated souls anyway. So we don't even know what our past lives are. We don't even know what we inherit. Now, so obviously certain character traits we inherit from our parents, that's for sure. good ones, bad ones, and we're given, other dispositions, because God threw that in our soul also. But inheriting other things, we have no idea. We have absolutely no idea. The question would be, when they convert, do they get their Jewish soul back? So I don't know how that works exactly. First of all, according to Kabbalah, it's a whole thing, how a soul can change from being Jewish to not Jewish, or it's a female to a male soul. I don't know how these things work. Exactly. So, is it the same soul that goes back in? There was a Mount Sinai that got messed up. Could be a whole new soul. I don't know. Somebody asks, why are there people that look alike very much, but they're not related? No idea. I don't know. Why do people look alike? Couldn't tell you. They could be totally different. Someone who looks the same as someone else, come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different soul makeup. I don't know. I don't know why they look the same. What other things they would have in common. If they're Jewish, but they came from converso Jews, can they convert like their ancestors? I don't know. They're not Jewish, right? Essentially, they're not Jewish, even if they have Jewish blood in them, right? Essentially, they're not Jewish. So again, that goes back to the question: does that, is that their same soul that was originally Jewish? That's non-Jewish soul. Does that really change? I don't know. I don't know if they get the same soul or not. That I don't know. I don't know if that makes a difference, whether they were conversos or not. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any difference. The soul's, in this case, the soul's not Jewish either way. If you tell me the soul probably is Jewish, they just can't prove it. They don't have enough evidence to prove it. Okay, so they have to go through conversion anyway. But most of these people, most of these conversos anyway, in general, there was intermarriage and they're not Jewish. In any case, they're not Jewish. So they would have the same status as anyone else. That doesn't change. I don't think that changes. Any other questions? Can a Jew be a secular judge? That's a problem. That's a problem. I've heard people scream there's an Orthodox woman who's a judge. Who's actually a judge. Forget the fact she's a woman, whatever, but the fact that judging according to secular law, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Can a Jew be a lawyer? They can be a lawyer. Can they be a lawyer? 100%. Can they judge? Can they be a lawyer and go to secular court? Yeah. If it's, two non-Jews or Jew and a non-Jew, yeah. If they're a Jewish lawyer and they're two Jews, they should go to Beis Din. Right? Well, they can certainly go in front of secular court. That's not a problem. If they, in the case where they're allowed to. Cases we mentioned. Why does God have to show miracles now? God already said he's not going to do it. Torah already said clear. God says, I'm going to hide my face till the Messiah comes. He's gonna hide himself. Right? So God himself said, I'm going to hide myself. So if God himself said, I'm going to hide myself, why does he do miracles? Why would he do miracles? He said that's not going to change till the Messiah comes. So if that's not going to change till the Messiah comes, finished. Because of all what's the reason? Because of all the terrible things we've done. God says I'm going to hide myself. Till when? Till the end of time. Till the Messiah comes, then God will reveal himself. Right? Then he'll be revealed. But the Torah says clear he's not going to reveal himself till then. Is Hashem's mercy limited? No, not necessarily. God has unlimited mercy. But at some point, I would say, I wouldn't say it's unlimited forever. God's not going to say, okay, I'm going to let you do whatever you want for as long as you want. I'm not going to do that. At some point, God's going to say, okay, I've had enough. And then he's going to mete out punishment. Because otherwise, God would mete out punishment straight away for whatever we do. We wouldn't have free will. 100%, we didn't have free will. Right? We wouldn't have free will. So I would say God has a lot of mercy. It's not unlimited. I wouldn't say it's unlimited. When does God decide to use it and not? I can't answer. That's that's above my pay grade. I don't know. You see God has mercy though. You definitely see that God has mercy. But it doesn't go forever. Certainly not forever. Judge Judy is Jewish. Okay. Right. There's an Orthodox woman, I think in Brooklyn, that is a Jewish judge. That's a problem. Here in Israel, how can you be a Jewish judge in the secular court? Can't be. And a lot of these judges are secular. Secular leftists, forget, could go on for that until tomorrow. Right? How can they judge secular law? How can they be a judge for secular law? Not only that, in most cases here, it's Jews against Jews. So now you're helping Jews not go to rabbinical court and go and stay in secular court. A lot of prohibitions. A lot of prohibitions. How can they do it? You have to ask them. No real permissibility here. Does one have to become even more wicked than already today, or does righteousness have to be high for Hashem to bring the redemption? So that you have to listen to my last Q&A. Last Q&A spoke about that. Basically the Messiah can come in one of two ways. Either we deserve it and everything's going to be good, or God's going to put up a king like Mr. Haman, Mr. Haman himself, and God is going to make us all repent because of that, etc. So I would venture the latter. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, not the other way around. Right? That's the way I see it. So does it have to be worse? Yeah, it has to get worse. You can say how much worse can it get? Yeah, you can get plenty worse. You can get plenty worse. But that was the majority of the last Q&A I did. I spoke about that. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone mentions actually by sending someone to secular court, someone mentions that today it doesn't apply. It only applies when they threw Jews in dangerous situations, and maybe it wouldn't apply today. Okay. So here's the whole discussion here. The whole discussion here. Whatever, I have to see, but it but I would still stand by what I say, even though someone's going to say a lot of it maybe doesn't apply today. It could be, it could be, but informants are a pretty serious thing, regardless. Definitely regardless of that. Yeah. Any other questions? Don't ask, can Reformed Jews marry non-Jews? Why? They're Jews. A Reformed Jew is still a Jew unless they intermarry. Sorry, if their mother's not a Jew, then they're not a Jew. Reformed Jews got the status of a Jew. A lot of them happen to be non-Jews only because they're non-Jews, because their mother's not Jewish. So Reformed Jews are Jews like anyone else. You can't sell them chametz on Passover, right? You can't, they're not allowed to intermarry. They have the same obligations every Jew has. Someone asked what the implication of Bennett stepping down. So we don't know when we talk about politics. We'll say, just mention one thing. I think it's definitely a good thing because government, whatever, just totally anti-Jewish and anti all kinds of things that, that Judaism stands for. So the question is, what's going to be? It's going to be a better government or not, or it's going to be still a stalemate. We'll see. But it's definitely a good thing that he stepped down. And that the government, the government's done for A lot of different reasons. They want to change all kashrus laws and conversion and other things, and just horrific. So definitely not a bad thing. Question is what's going to be. What's going to be afterwards. It's going to be, it's going to be a stalemate. It's not going to be a stalemate like it's been in 4 previous elections or not. So don't know. We'll see. And, again, I would say it's definitely a good thing. No question about it, the way this country was going. So that I think is definitely a good thing. Any other questions? All right, we're going to stop here. Do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I will make one note. Sunday, I think I mentioned that there wasn't going to be a class because it's the 17th of Tammuz, and that was a week early. So Sunday, we're still going to have the class in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. So anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or Michael Chaim Kaufman. Send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wishing everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end of the day, depending where you are.